I welcome you to today's conversation in strategic management, and we do continue studying strategic management. We are looking at one of the most important units of strategic management, being strategy, monitoring, and evaluation. Okay, we want to study, strategy monitoring, okay, and evaluation. It is one thing to come up with a strategy. It is one thing, okay, to come up with a very good strategy, but again, it is another thing to be able to manage to achieve that particular strategy, or to be able to implement the strategy. And the reason as to why we're implementing that very strategy is that we should be able to achieve something at the end of the day. We should be able to catch our goal, our objective. But how do you get to measure if you are moving towards, okay, that goal set, right? There is need for you to know how to measure. So there is some mechanism that should be put to check the progress all the time again and again, to see how far we are from achieving our goal. And this is what you call strategy monitoring and evaluation. I understand again that some of you have done monitoring and evaluation actually as a course. You will know that it's a broader, piece of study, very broad. But in this, course, we just try to get some of the key concepts that we would want to use for the purposes of this conversation. Otherwise, we encourage you to study monitoring and evaluation. If you haven't done that, you can even do it as a short course. It's very important, for you in your own life to understand how to monitor and evaluate these projects. Thank you. So now, you see, I've already said that, when you develop a strategy, there is a need to have a mechanism for monitoring and how it will be implemented, right? And evaluated during the period of implementation. And at the end of the implementation, you have to evaluate, did we manage to achieve what we were looking for? So what we are doing is that when we are monitoring, we are tracking how the strategic objectives are being implemented. That's what we are trying to do. We are trying to track. And usually, in order to effectively track the implementation, each strategic objective must have, established the key performance indicator or key performance targets. You have to, set a target. Those, we call them the key performance indicators or key performance targets, the KPIs, right? These indicators, they are used in the evaluation process at the end of the lifetime of the strategic plan. These key performance indicator measure to us how we have performed as we were trying to pursue this particular objective. Now, you see, when you look at monitoring and evaluation, of course, of a strategy, there are basically three major tools that are required for you to implement a strategy. And these include, number one, you should be able to monitor and evaluate a strategy. You should be able to come up with a monitoring and evaluation plan and come up with the reporting mechanism, okay, for strategy implementation. Very important that you come up with the reporting mechanism for strategy implementation. That really does, help. You need that. Okay. Now, what about monitoring and the evaluation strategy? Right. Being one of the first tools that we need. What happens here? when you are having a monitoring and evaluation strategy, what it does is that it outlines the mechanisms, usually at a high level, how the organizational strategy will be implemented. And while trying to facilitate the ongoing review, the analysis is done and the understanding of the achieved performance is also checked. So this is what happens. A monitoring and evaluation strategy will outline the mechanism at a higher level and how the organizational strategy will be implemented while facilitating the ongoing review, facilitating the ongoing analysis, facilitating understanding of the achieved performance. So this is what usually happens when you're looking at a monitoring and evaluation strategy, being the first tool that you need. What a monitoring and evaluation strategy will do, it will set a framework, right? So that you are able to correct and report accurately. It will even provide a basis for continuous improvement and the mechanism to evaluate the successes and the challenges faced by the programs in the hope of learning from these issues. And that is what usually happens. Okay. I am saying that a monitoring and evaluation strategy will set a framework so that you are able to correct, and report accurately. It will provide actually a basis for continuous improvement, a monitoring and evaluation strategy. It will also provide a mechanism to evaluate the successes and even the challenges that you face, by these programs. Of course, the hope of it is that you learn something at the end of it all. Okay. That's what happens under monitoring and evaluation of a strategy. So the monitoring and evaluation strategy will contain the following key things. Okay. We're looking at a monitoring and evaluation strategy. It will define measurable benchmarks, right? What are some of the measurable benchmarks that we can check and look at? It will even set up the communication channels for the set benchmarks, right? And it will establish the preparation on monitoring plans. A monitoring and evaluation strategy will establish the preparation of review plans. Very important. You know that you cannot just, review the plan without preparing. So we need to prepare on how we're going to be reviewing these plans, but these plans need to be reviewed time again and again. That is very important. Monitoring and evaluating plan. What about a monitoring and evaluating plan? This is actually the second basic tool that you need. Okay. I've talked about monitoring and evaluation strategy. Now I am talking about a monitoring and evaluation tool, okay, which is called the M&E plan, right? The monitoring and evaluating plan. What about this one? With this one, it is just a document, okay, that will be there to help you to track and assess the results of the interventions throughout the life of the strategy, okay? There'll be this document that will be there to help you to track and check the results of the interventions that you have set throughout the life of the strategy. So that document is what you call a monitoring and evaluation plan, okay? So this document is said to be living, yeah? Because it should be referred to and updated on a regular basis. You have to refer to this again and again. Okay? So this is very important to learn. Now, you see, while the specifics of each strategy monitoring and evaluation plan will look different, but they should all follow the same basic structure, and actually will have to include the same key elements. So the M&E plan should follow the same structure. This is the message we are trying to talk about. The monitoring and evaluation plan, or the M&E plan, will include some documents that may have been, created during the program planning process, and some that will need to be created new. So it will have all these documents. Others may have been created during the program planning process, and some of the documents may have been, just recently created, and others will be new. So it will have all these. Okay. Now, there is a template here for monitoring and evaluation plan. A very interesting template. It starts with the strategic objective. Write down the strategic objective. Okay. Once we have written down that objective, you have to couple it with the required performance. What is it that we are requiring? Like in terms of performance, what is required from us? Then there should also be a monitoring method. Really, how are we going to, check if we are making progress? That's monitoring method. What methods are we going to use to check if we are progressing? And finally, you will have to look at monitoring frequency. Okay, how frequently are we going to be checking this? Is it per week? Is it every day? Is it after 1 month? This is important. And then finally, we have the part of the responsibility. Who is responsible of carrying out these performances or these tasks? So we need also who is responsible. Okay. I have highlighted that the third actually basic tool that is needed for monitoring and evaluation strategy, you need reporting mechanism for strategy implementation. Reporting mechanism is very important as well. Okay. You see, maybe the question would be, who told you that we have to be reporting? Okay. You see, how do we get to know whether we have to report? So this mandate, for reporting, it is usually derived for laws, policy documents in organizations, right? There are those laws, there are those policy documents in an organization, and they should be able to help us. So these reports are one of the most important means for monitoring achievement of the purpose an organization was created. Because if you're not reporting, then we are not seeing whether you're progressing and you are, Reports. The reports will actually enhance transparency and accountability in operations of an organization. If we are not reporting, then we may not manage to be transparent enough, and we may not be accountable enough, So to enhance transparency and accountability in operations of an organization, we need reporting. It's very important that we report, okay? Because these reports, they help in mitigating institutional risks that may even derail achievement on an organization's mandate. So we need these reports. I emphasize the reports are needed. Now, when it comes to the reporting framework, what are some of the types of reports that we do have? There are several reports that we do have. Number one, we have institutional reporting framework. Okay. We also do have the governance reporting framework. Okay. These are the frameworks that we have. There is the institutional reporting framework and governance reporting framework. Now, what are some of the types of these reports in question? Okay. There are different types of reports. The first one is transactional reports. We have functional reports, tactical reports, management reports, strategic reports, corporate, even on national reports as well. So all these are different types of reports that we need. And you need to understand how to come up with these. Now, when you want to follow, for example, you want to follow the institutional reporting framework, there is just an overview of this one, okay? So number one, you have transactional report. It will be followed by the functional report. The functional report will be followed by the departmental report. Then there will be a unit report. Then there will be CEO's report. And then there will be institutional annual report. So we start as low as from the transactions. The transactional report is made, then there will be a functional report, then the department will report, then the entire unit management will report, and then the CEO will report and to the, okay, will report, then we'll have the entire report of the institution at the end of the year, which is actually an annual report. Very important. The responsibility for institutional reporting is very important. Yeah, it's just to make sure that all the things go as planned. Now, when you check the governance reporting framework, this one is a bit different in terms of the flow. It starts with the management reports on strategy implementation. The management will report on how they have managed, they've implemented the strategy. There will also be a board standing committee report. The committee will report, and the strategy biannual report will come. Then it will be followed by the strategy implementational annual report. Then there will be the board strategy implementation on exit report as well. So all these reports are needed, and usually they are reported by different units. Okay. Let me show you the responsibility for governance reporting. Number one, you have management and functions and operations. Who prepares this one? It is actually the heads of units or heads of departments. Okay. The heads of the departments will prepare this report called management functions and operations. And who is going to present it? It's going to be presented to CEO and or deputy, then director. Then you have executive management that will be available, and the one who will enforce this is actually the board. Then the council standing committees, these are reports. Now, when it comes to council standing committees, the board secretary will have to prepare this one. And then the chair of the standing committee will present, and then the executive management will be available for this. Then the enforcement will be done by the board as well. The biannual, report will be made by the board secretary as well. Then the chair of the board will chair this one. Then the board secretary will be available as well, and the executive management will enforce that. But when it comes to the annual report, the board secretary will prepare. Then the chair of the board, CEO, okay, presents. Then you have an executive management and the board. And then the exit will be the board of secretary, which will prepare this report. And then the board of secretary will present again. And then the availability will be the executive management. And to enforce is still the board. So this is very, very important framework that you need to understand. So in a nutshell, we are saying that monitoring and evaluation is very important because ultimately many people have managed to come up with good strategies, but they have just failed to implement them. So you need this power. Do I have any questions? Okay, if I do not have any questions, can end here. Right.